and welcome to 4,000 Counting. I'm Watty, and today I'm joined by Spencer Naas of the Dundee Stars. Spencer, welcome to 4,000 Counting, buddy.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
So this year's kind of been a split year for you. You started the year in Germany, but you're back with Dundee. How's the transition back to life in Dundee been for you?
It's been great. I really enjoyed my first year in Dundee last season, and after the season, I just had some opportunities that probably wouldn't have had prior to that because last season went well for me, and decided to explore something different. Even though I had nothing against Dundee or the Elite League or anything like that, I just wanted to go see a new part of the world, see a different league, and things got a little I don't know, just didn't go quite as well as I would have hoped there. And Mark was in touch with me up in Dundee, and right before Christmas time, we decided to come back. So it's been a great transition. Honestly, it felt like I never left. Really, I mean, just picked up kind of right where I left off with the team and the fans and everything like that. So it's been good.
So, like personally for you last year, you had a great year. Looking at your stats, 59 points in 54 games. Obviously, that does get you noticed by clubs in Europe. And you talked about having kind of like options on the table. You ended up picking the DL2, which is a fantastic league. What other sort of options were there for you after last season?
Yeah, I was kind of hoping to either get into DL2 or the Ice League in like Austria or Italy. And just as the summer went on, this was the first one that really came up. And you're in that position of, do you wait for something else, or do you jump on the opportunity that you're given? And it's a little different over here. Like I left for Germany at the end of July, so things happen kind of quick, and so you're kind of forced to make decisions early on in that summer. And yeah, it was right around mid June that I signed to go to Germany.
So when
But
you're going in July, is that for train? Were you going for training camp that early?
yeah. So we had
Yeah.
we had 6 weeks preseason before we played a regular season game. So that's way different than what we're used to in North America. I mean, I had years in North America where I didn't leave until the end of September, early October for my training camp. So it's completely different. And Elite League goes a little bit later than some of the other European leagues. Like some of the um, other leagues in Europe are already finished with their regular season right now, at the end of February here, whereas we still have 12 regular season games left. So the timing's just different, I guess, wherever you are in the world. But yeah, whenever you have to leave in July, it kind of, I don't know, kind of still feels like summertime to me at that point.
Oh, absolutely, summertime, especially when you've
Yeah,
done. I was talking. We had Tyson McClellan on the interview before you. He actually played in the same spot in Germany. Said he loved it. But as you're talking about there, the games run earlier. So if you don't make playoffs in Germany, you're pretty much done now, or at the very latest. I think the Dell games finished on the 7th of March. I was looking last week.
yeah,
If you don't make the playoffs, you can have 3 4 months off. But I guess they do have the best of seven series in the Dell. I don't know what it is in the Dell too, but I like the fact that you get some proper playoffs over here. It's something we're dying out for. I love the playoff finals weekend. It's a great weekend. But with the amount of like North American guys we bring in, it makes sense to go into like playoff series.
yeah. I think so. I've heard a few people talk about it, and I think it's an interesting thing to consider. Like you said, the finals weekend is fun. I've never been myself. Would love to make it this year with their team, but um, yeah, I don't know. I'm a little mixed because at the same time, for a club that maybe is out of it, like for us this year, we're fighting for the playoffs, but we know that if we make the playoffs and we have 2 good weekends, we could be the
Yeah.
champion of the league, which is super exciting. Um, you know, uh, that's certainly a more daunting task if you have to beat the Sheffields and the Belfasts 4 out of 7 games for a couple series in a row. But yeah, I think there's definitely some solution there where you might have a best of five or even a best of seven weekend or two, and then combine combine the format sort of. And we're not used to the aggregate thing as much
All
coming
right.
from North America. I know it's popular in soccer here, but yeah, I think it's good to throw the ideas around and see if they can change some things or mix around with the schedule to find the right balance.
Well, the Challenge Cup last night, that obviously done over aggregate. Belfast take a 3-zip lead into Nottingham. Nottingham, they win 2-0. I managed to like watch the last 5 minutes after work, and Nottingham were throwing absolutely everything at Belfast. They pulled the goalie. The amount of like good opportunities they had, the puck was just falling down. It was a good advert. It made it quite exciting. But I've also seen the other kind of side of it where there's a massive blowout on day one,
Yeah,
and game two just becomes irrelevant.
yeah,
Which in that series, you lose one, you chalk it off, you go again tomorrow. Doesn't matter what the score was. You can go again. There's arguments for both. I understand why the owners want to do it the way they do with the playoff finals weekend. It makes good revenue with so many teams, i.e., Belfast, Sheffield, and the Panthers all being in big multi-purpose arenas. You can't be like, yeah, we're going to have the ice for this night, this night, this night, and then not sell it. It's not the NHL.
yeah,
There's money to give Beyonce if she wants to do a
sure.
Friday night in Sheffield, then probably she's going to make more money and they'll probably take that. It's a hard one because I think UK hockey fans would love like 7 game series. It'd be
Yeah,
awesome. You see how passionate they are anyway, and that's just like just on a weekly basis. But you get them in that where you start to hate a team, and you know as hockey players when you get
oh
into
yeah,
that stage, it brings something out of you.
definitely. I think if they were to go to that, the regular season would probably have to end a little bit sooner, and maybe the Challenge Cup games would have to be reduced a little bit because um,
A lot of
if you were to
games.
do a full playoff format right now, like ending April 7th, regular season, whatever it is right now, then you're kind of looking at more of a North American schedule, which is fine, but I do think maybe some of the appeal for some of the guys coming over from North America is to play a little bit fewer games. Like if you're in the AHL or ECHL, you're playing 72 plus then the full playoff format, and I think most of the other European leagues are around 52, 44, something like that. So something to think about, I think, for sure.
It's interesting that you say that actually from that perspective. It is nice to maybe have that shorter playoff series, get home a little earlier, get back to North America, have a summer with
Yeah,
a family, start your off-season training again, and getting in the weight room, all the things that make you ready come September.
for sure. Yeah, because right now, I mean, you're looking at 54 regular season games. I wasn't here for the Challenge Cup because I showed up later, but I know Dundee played 12, and if these other teams they're going to the finals, they're playing 15 plus, and then if you were to add 20 playoff games, you're almost at 100 games, and so I don't know if that's really feasible. So, yeah, if you wanted to maybe shorten that cup significantly, single elimination or maybe just I don't know some other. There's a bunch of different possibilities there, but then that could maybe open you up for a little bit longer playoff format.
I like the idea that and then we talked to Tony Smith, the Elite League chairman, at Saltbox during our interview last year, and we talked about the fact I would like to see it to be a very short group stage in the Challenge Cup, and then the challenge like instead of the playoff finals weekend where all the teams come, you have Challenge Cup weekend. Like that's what they do
Uh,
in rugby. You do that, but then you have playoff series at the end. But again,
yeah, it's a good idea.
commercially commercially it's quite difficult to do that with again potentially not using the arena on nights that you say you're going to use it and the finances that comes alongside that. And I do imagine you're going to lose some money if you're having to reserve the Odyssey in Belfast. They have other stuff on there. Obviously, it is the home of the Giants, a little bit easier. Whereas, the Nottingham, home of the Panthers, they have a lot of concerts there. They have boxing, they have many other events. So just I guess when you go in at the start of the year, you make that right. We need 27 dates. This is the ones we need plus Challenge Cup nights to then be like put in, we might need game five, we might need game
Yeah,
seven. I'm not sure how
yeah,
that would.
for sure. It's a good point. I don't necessarily have the answer for that. I do know that. I mean, I know we don't have the finances of the NHL, but the ECHL doesn't either, and they do that, and other European leagues have found a
Yep.
way to make that work too. With I'm sure some arena teams that have multi-purpose venues. So yeah, it's I don't like I said, all this stuff is there's finances and numbers that we're not you know
Privy to,
able
yeah.
to access that, but it's all ideas, and I think it's good to discuss it and to brainstorm possibilities for the league to grow or to change and innovate.
So one of the things we've been talking about with guys that have played both the North American, like AHL Coast and Europe, as well as the Elite League, the ones that have been in Europe, we're asking if you were voting, would you vote for the Friday Sunday schedule in the Elite League, much the same as across Europe, or are you happy with the Saturday Sunday?
I would vote Friday, Sunday. I'd be surprised if many players were to vote differently than that. But
That's that's 100% of the players we've asked have said the
yeah,
exact same.
yeah, it makes a huge difference. I mean, I know Saturday is kind of the big day, probably the best attendance wise, but it really makes a big difference. And I mean, even a Thursday, Saturday, some weeks, or Friday, Sunday, we don't really care. I think as long as you just give one extra day. Um, because if you think about it logistically, I mean, earlier this year we played in Cardiff on Saturday night and we got a big win against a great team. And we drove back from Cardiff that night, got home at 8 in the morning, and we played at 4 in the afternoon against Manchester after kind of sleeping on the bus. And that was it. You know, that's one of the teams that's chasing us in the playoff race. And we were playing at home, but we were like, we
Just
we didn't
beating
didn't
them
feel
up.
like much of an advantage to play at home that day when we had bust through the night. And it's no excuse, you still got to play, but there's real physiological disadvantages to that. I mean,
Yeah.
so it's yeah, it really is easier on your body when you get that extra day in between. So that's my vote.
I imagine you'd see a lot of guys coming off the IR a lot quicker or going on it a lot less frequently if there were days in between.
Yeah, well, there's studies in the NFL back in North America for those that follow American football that there's more injuries in Thursday night football games than there are on Sunday games. So just teams play on a Sunday and having to turn around and prepare for that Thursday night game. There's been recorded more injuries on that game, and that's just having a few extra days to rest in between. So I've found that pretty interesting, and it'd be hard to track that as in regards to the Elite League, but um, I'm sure, yeah, there probably is more injuries because of it.
Well, the NFL boys they throw that weight around and it's hard impact. That's why they have such a condensed season. They really don't play a lot of games in the NFL.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, they're only once a week and 17 regular season games, I think. No.
Yeah, it's not a lot. Like when you
Yeah.
compare it to like an NHL season, it's a fraction of it.
Yeah, yeah. NHL's at 82. So, and then you got the full playoff. So that's a grind.
Like I'm a Tampa fan, and we had like them years where you keep going to the final, and you go, these guys are playing fucking 100 games a season, being off for like 6 weeks, and then 100 games, and then off for 6 weeks, then 100 games. Like,
It's remarkable.
yeah, phenomenal. I don't know how you get
Yeah.
through that, especially at that level with the caliber of guys you're playing against on a nightly basis. It's fucking wild, man.
Yeah, absolutely. No, for sure. That's why I guess they're paid the way they are, and they're
Yeah.
some of the best athletes in the world. And they get, obviously their treatment and your travel, you're flying private and eating well, all that. They give them the best chance to be successful. But yeah, it's a very, very difficult schedule.
Do you have an NHL team you follow?
I'm from Minnesota, so Minnesota Wild is kind of the team I grew up watching as a kid, and it's hard to as you know, it's hard to follow when we're over here. It's hard to watch live, but I'll watch the highlights and follow that team.
Who was your guy that you liked when you were growing up? Gabrick?
Yeah, that's good by you to remember Gabrick. He was kind of the guy, and I was there with my dad the night that he scored 5 goals on Henrik Lundqvist in Minnesota. So that was a pretty cool night, and that was a fun game to be at. So yeah, maybe Gabrick, and then a little bit
Oh, lost you.
size and maybe player to me, and he was a Minnesota guy. So I like those two.
What do you boys do to kill the time when you're over here? You golfing? Are you gymming? What's going down?
Yeah. A lot of guys like to golf. Obviously, being up in Scotland right now, the last couple months, it's been tough. But I haven't gotten out since I've been back. But definitely in the spring, I will when it gets a little nicer. There is quite a bit to see. I feel like Scotland's kind of an underrated part of the world. Obviously, the weather's not great, but there's quite a bit outdoor stuff. And last year, we went up to Inverness and
Right.
Glencoe and just drove around, and the terrain is beautiful. And I like to spend time in Edinburgh too. It's not too far from us, and it's an amazing city. So yeah, there's enough to do to keep us busy.
Glencoe's beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is.
It's,
It's really nice.
if you've never drove through Glencoe, put it on your bucket list. It's definitely worth seeing.
100%. Yeah, no, definitely. I think there's a lot of those spots. Like I haven't been to Isle of Skye, but I've heard that one's great. So maybe this spring I'll do that.
Yeah, I did the island. So when I did the Glencoe, I went through Glencoe, up, carried on going up into the Isle of Skye. Phenomenal place. Like,
Yeah,
so
definitely. Yeah.
it's it's absolutely stunning up there. Nice part of the world. Let's go back to this season. You touched on the Storm of the team to be chasing you down. As it stands, you boys sitting on 42 games with 38 points. The Storm, 2 games back on you, 40 games, but then 9 points back. You guys are in a pretty healthy position, but there's still a lot of hockey to be played. Obviously, in your eyes, you want to be chasing down the clan who are 3 points ahead of you. So, what's the kind of mood in the camp, and what's the plan to make sure you secure that playoff spot?
Yeah, we're feeling pretty good right now. I think since around Christmas time, we've been playing some really good hockey, and yeah, we've been able to kind of create a little bit of separation right now. But they've got some games in hand, so and they're a good team. So we can't take any nights off, and we have far from secured our spot. But no, it's a good vibe in the room right now. We've been playing well and picking up points every weekend. That's kind of the goal, is to pick up some sort of points every weekend. And yeah, we're getting down to the final stretch, and Manchester's a good team, so we're yeah, but we can't watch what they're doing too much. I mean, we just gotta gotta play, and we'd love to catch Glasgow and Guildford or whoever, but all the teams are good. Like this league is a good league for a reason, and no team is it's been a tough year for Fife, but even then they can beat anyone like on any given night if you don't show up.
Your last weekend here, you lose at home 6-2 to the Flames, but then you go down and pick up 2 massive points on the road in Coventry. Talk us through last weekend. Must be disappointing to lose at home, but happy to bounce straight back and pick those 2 points back up.
Yeah. The Coventry game was disappointing, or excuse me, the Guildford game was disappointing. But we also, I mean, we had a lot of chances that night. It was not a 6-2 game. It was on paper, but it didn't feel like that. And we took more positives, I think, than maybe one would expect out of a 6-2 game, and took that into Coventry, and got, like you said, a huge 2 points. That's not an easy place to play, and they have the team kind of built to play in that arena. The ice wasn't very good, and the ice surface is a little bit smaller, and so they play that hard nosed game, and they don't make it easy on you. And we just kind of had a greasy road win, and we'll take it. 2 huge points, like you said.
The next kind of 8 days coming from Saturday, you got a pretty tough schedule. You got the Panthers on the road, the Steelers at home, and then you got a huge midweek Wednesday night game where you take on the Storm. Then it's the Giants, and then the Storm are up in Dundee. So three of the big dogs and 2 games against Manchester, the team right against you. So it's a nice, interesting stretch of games for you boys here.
Yeah, it is. Like you said, this might be the toughest 8 day stretch of our season. 5 games in Nottingham, home against Sheffield, in Manchester, and then in Belfast, and then back home the next day. So we're riding the ferry and all that. But I mean, a stretch like this, if you play it well, could really set us up nicely for the rest of the year. And if it doesn't go well, then all of a sudden you're kind of entering that stretch, really needing points. And last year it came down to literally the final game of the season for us. We had to beat Fife to get in, and I think we'd like to avoid being in that position this year if we could. So hopefully we can have some success this next week, even though the travel and all that's going to be tough. But at this point, it's nothing no one's used to if you've been playing in the elite league.
Yeah, very true. What do you obviously you boys got quite a heavy travel schedule being up in Dundee. Other than the two Scottish teams, everywhere else you got to do a bit of traveling. What would you do to kill time on the bus? You cards player? You get involved with the cards, or you on the iPad? What do you kill the time?
Yeah, I don't get super involved in the cards, but there's a big group of guys that play. I kind of get kicked out of my spot for them to move the makeshift table in there so they can play. But that's fine with me. I go in the back with a few of the other guys and we just chat. Yeah, I've got my iPad and I've got a Kindle. I like to read some books and take a nap. And I'm not doing anything too crazy on the bus, but the guys do like cards, and you kind of just get used to the travel. You almost get numb to it. I would say, like, it's long days spent on the bus, but yeah, you get used to passing the time, and you sleep for a couple hours, you watch a movie, you read for a little bit. There you go. That's 6 hours just there. So
Kill some
um,
time. Would
yeah.
you? What's your go-to for snacks on the bus?
Mm. I always pack like a peanut butter Nutella or peanut butter jelly sandwich. Um, and then we try to load up kind of whenever we do the rest stops, or I yeah I try to eat definitely a big meal before we get on there, and then um, big meal when we stop for lunch. But chips, I know guys like some chips. Well, I guess they'd be crisps here,
Yeah,
depending on who you're talking to. But yeah, you see quite a bit of different variety of snacks.
yeah, always getting after it. What about the way back? Do you boys get to drink a couple of pops on the way home after a long road trip and a win, or the coach
Yeah,
saying,
yeah, yeah. I mean, if it's a well deserved win, or if the weekend goes well, for sure. I mean, it's fun. I think you played, and
yeah,
some of those times on the bus with the boys, like, as much as we hate the bus and we kind of dread those long trips, they can be pretty fun. And after a win, if guys get going a little bit, and you get some pretty good stories or some pretty good laughs, so that's good, because we've all been on the bus when it's not that way, and you're coming off of a bad loss or whatever, and that makes for a long 10 hours, and your body hurts, and you're sore, and you're hungry, and you're dehydrated, and you're just like, this is brutal. So it's good to enjoy the ones when it goes well.
well, after you're not playing, obviously the big games, you miss the big games. You don't miss the practice nights. You don't miss, the dead rubber games or anything like that. But you do miss the boys being on the bus, shooting shit, being in the room, having fun. They're the major things you miss, I think, when you hang them up.
Yeah, that's what I've heard for sure. And we have a good group this year. We had a good group last year, and like right now, even it's getting near the end of the season, and I think a lot of guys are just spending more time at the rink. Like, it's almost like guys don't want to go home just because um, you get done with practice, and then guys are just hanging out in the locker room. We got the TV on or whatever, and we're talking, and that's fun. And I know we'll miss that. Come summertime, and then come the years that we're not playing. So it's fun when guys get to just hanging out in the locker room, and it's like it is your second home really during the hockey season.
Oh yeah,
It's
for
where
a
you
long
spend most
portion
of
of
your
the
time.
season, right?
Yeah,
It's a lot out of your year that you're in that room with those guys. So it's good that you get to, blow off some steam, get a couple of pops in you, everyone tells some stories. It makes the travel go, and it's the memories. Everyone remembers the stories. That's why it's been great doing this podcast, actually. Like, had a few ex-teammates on, and they're like, "Oh, you remember this?" And they start the stories that you haven't thought about maybe in like 10 years, and they come back, and it's like you're right there again. Good times. I always like to ask the North Americans, have you been partaking in any of the Scottish delicacies? Any haggis, bit of iron brew? You trying the stuff, or is it not for you?
I stay pretty clear of that stuff, to be honest with you. The black pudding, the haggis,
Yeah,
the iron brew, I could do, but maybe I'm just not a fizzy drink guy. So
fair.
I kind of stick to what I know more. I'm not a picky eater necessarily, but I haven't gotten too much into the Scottish cuisine.
Definitely should try some haggis and black pudding. I'm just saying. I'm actually born in Scotland. I'm Scottish, so I think it's in our blood. I think like
Yeah, absolutely. No, for
just
sure. I respect that too.
yeah, just got to try it, and they like to deep fry everything in Scotland as well.
Well, I'm from
Yeah, well,
I'm
fair
sure.
point. A fair point. Everything's
I can't say
extra
much
large.
about that. Yeah.
Let's roll right back. We'll come back to some Dundee stuff in a bit, but I want to talk about your kind of junior career, and you went down the NCAA route. So going through, 2 years at Blake School, and then St. Margaret School for two. Are they Minnesota schools?
Yeah, yeah. So those are just like college preparatory schools essentially. And the majority of kids would probably go from there to playing in the USHL or the NAHL, which would be traditional, junior hockey leagues. And the opportunity popped up at University of Connecticut for me in NCAA, and they needed guys for that next season. So I went straight from high school to college, which is becoming pretty rare now. With these college teams want some older kids normally, but yeah. So I actually didn't end up playing any junior hockey, which um,
Just prep.
isn't super common. Yeah,
That's mad, actually, because
yeah,
nowadays you don't hear that at all. They're all doing a little bit, and they're becoming like men almost before they get to the NCAA.
yeah, yeah. You definitely get some 21-year-old freshmen and 25, 26-year-old seniors, and I was done with school at 22. So
Yeah,
I
big
I
difference.
played. Yeah, I ended up playing my first pro games when I was 22.
What was the biggest like adjustment point coming from prep and actually then you're actually at the level you were prepping for? Like the standard must
Yeah,
be mad different.
definitely. I've said the jump from like preparatory or high school to college is a lot bigger in my mind than the jump was from college to the AHL, which at that point you're one league below the NHL, and in college I played against Cale Makar, Jack Eichel, Tage Thompson was on my team. Like those guys step right into the NHL and are successful essentially. But when you're coming from high school, like half the kids on your team, hockey's not even like their main sport. Like guys are playing lacrosse or soccer or baseball or whatever. And so, yeah, it was a really big step. And I just wasn't even really used to like playing with full systems and just
Right, yeah.
the schedule and just the attention to detail that you needed on the ice and the things I had to think about. Like in high school, I was just kind of out there to score, and that's what I was trying to do. And I think there's a pure aspect of that too. And I think you can kind of lose some of that, but at the same time, like if you're going to play pro hockey, you need to learn those details of the game that they really hammer home in college. So that was definitely an eye opener, but it actually went pretty well. I handled it all right, and looking back, I think my first year in university, I'm really happy with that season. Like I'm proud of how I played there. I think it might have been actually one of my better years of hockey, just making that jump and being able to fit in.
Well, yeah, 13 tucks in 36 game as a rookie. That's good numbers in the NCAA because as you know, like it's not a highly hugely scoring league. You're not seeing guys getting like 50 tucks or anything. So it's good numbers.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's kind of why I look back at it and I'm proud of that season for sure because I mean if you get 10 points, I think that as a true freshman I would have been happy with that, I think. And so to get an opportunity to play and to contribute and all that was great. And it's an eye opener for sure. Like I said, some of the guys you play against in that league are legit.
What was it like going into the last 2 years? Obviously, you get to wear the A on your jersey. That must have been a nice moment getting told you're going to be wearing a letter.
Definitely, it's a great honor. I mean, whenever you can wear a letter on any type of team, I wore one in high school, and it was a goal of mine to wear one in college, and then it was a goal of mine to wear one as professional. So I've been lucky enough to do that, and yeah, those last 2 years, it's kind of like a make or break, sort of. I mean, I knew that I wanted to play professionally, and you got to go give yourself an opportunity to do that. And so it's not like it is now where you could, kids now get a free transfer in the NCAA.
Right.
Um,
Okay.
so you are where you are essentially, and I was happy with where I was at University of Connecticut, but you got to find a way to play well and give yourself a chance. And I wanted to try to play in the NHL. I wanted to try to play in the AHL, and junior and senior year went well, and then I got I had that opportunity. So I was proud of what I was able to accomplish those last couple of years.
How did you guys do as a team? Did you make any playoff runs or anything like that?
It was difficult. I mean, my senior year, we ended up getting a bye in the first round of Hockey East playoffs, and we entered the playoffs, I think, on like a 7-game winning streak. We had a good team, a lot of guys that ended up playing in the AHL or various leagues in Europe and all that. And we played Boston University, who had, Ottinger, Brady Kachuk. I think Jordan Greenway was on that team. I mean, they had boatloads of NHL players, and we played them really tight series, and they beat us. But that was, and I think they won the Hockey East tournament that year. So we never ended up making a big run like I would have loved to, but it's a tough league. BC, BU, Vermont, Maine, Providence. Providence won the national championship my freshman year. So Northeastern, tons of good teams.
Just a stacked division, isn't it?
Yeah, it is
Like
for
it's
sure. I think this
ridiculously
year
tough.
I think they've got 5 in the top 10 this year so far. So
Yeah,
it's
it's
tough.
some good hockey out there. Who are the of you name dropped a couple of boys, Brady Kachuk, Kel McCarr. Who were the better guys you played at throughout your collegiate career?
Yeah, Eichel's the like hands down first answer guy that comes to my mind. It was a joke when we played him. Like he was just on another level, and I think he was the youngest player in college hockey that year too, and he was dominating, like physically and his skating, and he was just so ready for the next level. But Makar was good, a guy that like might not stand out as much, but has become a really good pro and was really good when we played him. Was Brandon Montour at UMass? Like I remember watching him, just like he was such a good skater, and he won the Stanley Cup last year in Florida. Was a huge part of that team, so he was a great player too. But the list is long for sure of guys that played in hockey during those years. And Tage Thompson was a teammate of mine, and he's become a 40 goal scorer in the NHL. So he was impressive too.
Yeah, that guy can snipe for sure.
Yeah, he can shoot a puck for sure.
Yeah, he's got a nasty shot on him, quick release.
Yeah,
Just he's big body as well.
yeah. I think he's 6'6" or something, and can skate well, has good hands, and can shoot. So I don't know what else. What else do you need?
Yeah, the guy's got a full package going on. Good for
Yeah,
him. What about like? Do you know what? It's something I don't really ask, but what about some of the goaltenders you came up against? Obviously, being a forward, being a shooter. Who
hmm
uh, who were some of the better college netminders that you came across in your career?
yeah. So I mentioned Ottinger. He's on
Yeah,
USA
yeah.
Four Nations now team, and then the other one that was at Boston College was Thatcher Demko,
Oh,
who
okay.
is one of the best goalies in the league now. Probably would have been on that team if he wasn't dealing with injuries. So yeah, those two are kind of the big ones that come to mind. and have become, standout NHL goalies.
Your senior year, obviously, you get done with school. You played 12 games with the Cleveland Monsters. What was that experience like?
That was great. I remember having a good end to the season as a senior in college, and kind of just rode that momentum right into playing for Cleveland. Um, I felt like I was playing with house money, kind of, because the
Right.
season had gone well, and you're just so excited to get your first opportunity to play in pro. And Cleveland was really struggling that year, and they had a lot of injuries. So I kind of stepped in, and there weren't really high expectations, and I was able to play a lot, and it was just really fun. I just had a really good experience for my first time playing professional hockey, and it was a dream, honestly, because they're, like I said, they didn't overbear me with systems or anything like that. They just said go play, and was able to have some success too, and it was a super enjoyable time. And yeah, just look back on that very fondly.
Yeah, good 7 points in 12 games too. Like it's amazing what you can do when you're having fun playing your hockey, right?
Absolutely, yeah, definitely. Those things go hand in hand for sure.
The following season you split time between the A and the Coast. Had you had you signed a two-way deal? What was going on there?
Yeah, so I signed a 2-year or two-way deal in Texas that summer. Went to camp there, got sent to Idaho, and then kind of bounced back up and down the rest of the season between those two teams.
How did you find that? Because obviously that's the first time not being on like college hockey where then you're not getting up and down. The previous
Yeah,
season you're with Cleveland for 12 games, you stay there. Following season you're up and down. How did you deal with that?
I thought it was pretty difficult. I would say my experience with Cleveland, like my experience with Texas, was completely different. Texas was coming off of a trip to the finals the year before. The expectation, was to win and to compete for the playoffs and all that. And so all of a sudden, I'm stepping into a team that's highly competitive and very system oriented, and your leash is not very long. So it was difficult for me because I had never been in a position where I'm sitting out games or playing 6, 7 minutes a game. I'd play 6, 7 minutes, sit out 2 games, come back in, play 6, 7 minutes again, and that's a reality for a lot of guys in that situation. And it just, I think it's harder mentally than anything else, and you kind of start to lose some confidence. And um, the other thing was I went from high school to college where we play 36 games in a season, and now you get to pro where it's a 72 game schedule. So I had never played many games because I didn't go to I didn't play in junior hockey. So that was an adjustment too. It's just the number of games you're playing, and the lifestyle is different. And yeah, I mean, I thought I was ready to be a pro, and I think in a lot of ways I was, but at the same time too, you can't really prepare for it until you do it. So I had a lot to learn.
How did you find being in Idaho?
Idaho's an amazing spot. I mean, I would say of all the places I've been, Boise, Idaho surprised me the most. I just had no expectations or previous, ideas of what Boise was like, and that's a fun city. It's a great place to play hockey. They have a nice rink right downtown. The fans are great, and we had a really good team. Um, we lost in the semifinals that year, but we probably had a team that could have done some damage, and that's a fun place to play hockey. I think if you ask anyone that played in Idaho at any point, they would echo that.
Yeah, we've had a couple of ex Steelheads on, and they love the spot. That's why I wanted to ask because
Yeah,
they seem to pump the team up and the city. The following season, you was with Idaho for pretty much the entire season, and then went to Kalamazoo Wings for the last bit of the season there.
yeah, that was right before COVID hit. So I got traded Kalamazoo. Like looking back, as everyone's life was changed in that spring of 2020. It was just kind of a really odd like little blip on or little stint in time for me. Couple weeks there, right before everything shut down, and Then it was back to Minnesota uh, until after Christmas the next year. So I went about 10 months without playing a game, and then went over to Sweden for a couple months. But yeah, I mean, really odd time for hockey in the world and for everyone in the world. But one that probably I ended up, coming out of it having learned some stuff for sure about myself and my game. But I was just glad to play somewhere when I went to Sweden. And I know guys that were forced to retire because they didn't have opportunities, or, needed to make some money and couldn't just sit around at home for months. So I'm grateful that I was able to come out the other side of it, I guess.
I guess it must be disappointing though that you do get to go across, you get to go to Europe, you get to play in Sweden, but then you don't really get to experience any of it because of COVID.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, you're exactly right. Like when we're playing over in North America and we have the goal, the aspiration to play in Europe someday, like that's not what we have in mind, really. Like I was sitting in my room, kind of doing nothing all day, and then there was no fans allowed at the games, and in a really small Swedish town. And when I got there right after New Year's, or right, I think it actually was New Year's Eve, I was sitting in my room, and it's dark out all day, and you're just like, ooh, this is tough. But at that point, I had been home in Minnesota for a while, and I was kind of ready to just do anything. So it was good to get out of the house and experience some part of the world, even though it wasn't exactly what I had imagined.
What was the following season like? Because you went and played in the Magnus League of France, you played for Amiens. How did you rate the experience in France?
I loved my time in France. I think looking back, like at my uh, experience playing pro so far in my career, I think that was kind of a turning point in my career. Got off to a slow start there, but throughout that season was when I really started to learn what I needed to do to be a professional, and to prepare myself in the right way. I always worked hard, and I always felt like I had good habits on and off the ice, but I needed to really hone in on what would make me successful, and work smarter in some ways. So I started kind of looking at the game differently and trying to pick up little intricacies of the game and change the things that I needed to change, and ended up having some success by the end of the year. And we had a good group of guys in France, and it's an amazing country too. And we were only hour and a half from Paris by train, and got to spend a lot of time in Paris, got to see some beautiful stuff. So I had a great time there. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, you finished third on the team and scoring 32 points with 18 goals in 41 games. Again, France isn't one of those leagues where you're seeing guys rip up 80 points. That's a very good point return. What did you find of the standard of the Magnus League?
Where did we finish in the standings?
No, sorry. How did you find the standard? Because a lot of
Oh,
people like a comparison between, like France and
Elite
the
League.
UK.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It was good. I think you've got 12 teams in Magnus, and I think the top teams are excellent. And I think the bottom drops off a little bit more than it does here in the UK.
Right.
Once you get down to 10, 11, 12, those teams really can't compete with those top three. But those top three teams, and even 4 to 6 and 7 are really good. And you see a lot of guys play in this league and play in that league, and usually it's a pretty good indicator of success. So when I did pretty well in Magnus, and then I saw some of the guys I played with and against have success in the UK, I thought it might be a league that could suit me. So yeah, they are comparable. I think maybe in the last few years, the UK has taken a slight step up and has maybe created a little bit of separation there. But again, like those top teams in France, those are legitimate teams, and you know I think they could hold their own for sure in the UK.
Well, that's interesting. It's good to know when you've had guys that played at both levels because they're the best
Yeah,
people to ask. You went to Savannah Ghost Pirates in the A. Sorry, in the coast the following season. Where is Savannah?
Savannah's in Georgia. It's down south, and it was the first season for that team, so it was an expansion team. Beautiful new arena, and Savannah's right on the water there, and not far from Hilton Head Island, South Carolina, Charleston. It's a beautiful place in the world, and I had never lived in the southeast, so that was a new experience for me. And yeah, I always kind of had it in my mind that I wanted to go back to North America for at least one more season because it kind of felt premature when I went to Sweden for that COVID year.
Right.
Kind of ended up in Europe maybe before I had initially planned. So kind of always had that in the back of my mind and wanted to give it another go, and ended up in Savannah.
What did you make of your season playing Savannah personally, like point
Yeah,
production game?
yes. I was able to be one of the captains in Savannah, which was a great experience. That was something
Yeah.
I wanted to do as a pro and got the opportunity there. Um, the thing I remember about that season, I think if you look at like the elite prospects, I think we had 70 players play for our team that year. Um,
Six, 64 and 64 players and six goalies. Fuck me.
yeah, yeah. So there you go. So it was just this really odd combination of injuries and call ups and trades and all that stuff. And you're sitting there by the end of the season with this group that is completely different than the group you started with. And I had six roommates that year. Um,
Wow.
and so it was just, that was kind of tough to manage. I mean, one thing I do like about coming to Europe a little bit is, you know, obviously maybe every year a couple guys come and go, they'll switch teams, whatever, but you're not, guys aren't getting traded. They're not getting called up. They're not getting sent down. So you get to grow as a group. And, the group that you start with in September is the group that you end up going to the playoffs with. And guys get really close and you kind of form that bond. And it was just that year we weren't able to do that because so much roster turnover. And yeah, it
Sounds like
affects
a nightmare.
chemistry and everything like that. And we didn't have a very successful year because of that. So I really enjoyed playing there. Like the fans were amazing, and it's a great place to live. Wish I felt differently.
Right, lost you there. I've got you back.
Yeah,
Yeah, cool. So that brought around your second stint in Europe with the Dundee Stars. How did the move to Dundee come about?
yeah, it was interesting because I was sitting around all summer. I didn't have a ton of options. I was looking. I was wanting to go to Europe. Um, and could was kind of struggling to find a place actually, and then had a connection with Mark, my coach here in Dundee. He coached against me in France,
Oh,
um,
okay.
so he was kind of familiar with me a little bit, and I ended up signing in early August, I think. I mean, I actually messaged a few coaches in the league, like personally, just without an agent or anything. Messaged
Yeah.
some myself, received some responses, and then didn't hear back from some, and yeah, ended up going to Dundee and, didn't really know what to expect going to Scotland. And I mean, it ended up being, the best year of my career so far. And, I was grateful to Mark for that opportunity and was able to make the most of it.
Yeah, you finished second in the team and scoring 1 point behind Ryan Valentini. You guys you put some points up last year, 60 and 59 respectively. That's solid numbers. And 32 goals as well. That's a lot of tucks over the season. Good job on that.
Yeah, no, thanks. Yeah, we had a really good chemistry and with our other line mate, Brendan Harms. We kind of played together for most of the season and just had it rolling. We were kind of clicking all season, and it was a lot of fun. That's yeah. Whenever you're playing like that, hockey's pretty enjoyable.
You touched on needing to beat Fife on the last day. I think everyone forgets how crazy the Elite League was, and like that bottom six teams were all like separated by barely any points. It was like 1 point you're in, 1 point you're out. What was that like going into those games?
It was kind of fun. Like you talked about with the playoffs only being 2 weekends here, with a month and a half left in the season. Like we felt like we were playing playoff hockey. Even though it was regular season, it had that feel because I literally think on the last day of the season, Glasgow, Nottingham, us, and Fife all could have gotten in, and so the margins were razor thin, and we played over in Fife, and it kind of felt like a game seven. It was like you must win,
Yeah.
and that was fun. We had a big crowd, and Fife had a really good team last year. They had Shane and Nat and Lajeunesse and Osterberg. Like they had legitimate really good players, and we went in there and played great. We won a big game, and that was a fun moment.
You are, as we say, we're in that playoff kind of hockey mentality right now. You're in a battle. How big is this next like kind of 3 weeks here? Because you've got tough games, but you've got winnable games, and with two or three right results, you can start pulling towards maybe the clan and maybe the teams above them as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Um, we're thinking of it as a playoff mindset right now, and you know, all you need to do is get in. Like we talked about the playoff format quite a bit, but it's 2 weekends, and
Yeah.
you get some good goaltending, you get some good like hot scoring, and you just don't know what can happen. So we want to give ourselves a chance. And um, last year, if you were going to finish eighth and play Sheffield in that first weekend, I don't think anyone liked their chances in that.
They were,
So we wanted to finish seventh or better, and this year, I think it's a little bit closer than that. I mean, there's not necessarily one team that you'd be terrified of playing in the first round. Belfast is great, and they're kind of they've kind of got control of the league right now. And if we could finish seventh or sixth, that would be ideal. But you want to just give yourself a chance against anyone, and it's a home and away aggregate score, and I think anything can happen. So yeah, we're in playoff mode.
So for those that aren't so familiar with the Dundee Stars, because obviously we have plenty of people listening from all levels of UK, from all different teams. Who would be like your kind of standout guys on the Dundee Stars roster this year that you would maybe like if you were suggesting players to look at?
Yeah, I think the guy that comes to mind because he's played here for a few years now and he's been our captain is Dryden Dow, and he's super talented defenseman. And I don't think he probably gets enough credit for how good he is. Um, I think if he played for a Sheffield or a Belfast, I think a lot of people would be more familiar with him. But he's just a rock for us on the blue line, and he contributes offensively. And he's penalty killer, and he's our captain. So um, Dryden's a great player. I think Brendan Harms, is he's a great friend of mine, a great player. He's been good now for 2 seasons, and Sekos is our centerman right now, and he's a great player. He's in his first season over in Europe, and then I think maybe if you want to look at a guy that doesn't get as much attention, maybe isn't like the most offensive player, but like a Kyle Pouncey, defenseman who's a great skater, great two-way player for us. All those guys. But I could go down the list. I mean, we've got a lot of good players, and I think that's why we just want to get into the playoffs because we think we've got a chance.
I uh I liked Xavier Poulet when I watched him at the start of the year.
Yeah, for sure, tough guy for sure, and he'll fight anyone. And he won't back down. So it's good to have a guy like that on the team, and we again, might not put up the most points, but we appreciate what he does for our team, and he's a good guy to have in the room.
How's my boy Mr. Ben O'Connor being up in Dundee this year?
He's great. Benny just broke the all-time assist record for defensemen in the Elite League, which is an amazing accomplishment. And I know he's been around for a long time, but incredible shot, makes a lot of good plays, and brings an offense and physical side to the back end. So yeah, we're happy to have him. I played against him in Guildford last year, and I like having him on my team more than I liked playing against him.
Yeah, throwing like 80-foot source passes to tape and giving you a dash one. Yeah, thanks for that. He can definitely move the puck around out there. You
Oh
you
yeah,
touched on playing for Mark. What's it like playing for him?
I've really enjoyed it. Mark is, he expects a lot, but he's honest. He's fair. Like last year, I didn't start on the power play or anything, but he gives you that opportunity to go earn ice time, which I think as a player, like what else can you ask for, really? Like if you play well and you deserve more time, he'll give it to you. And you know, last year was an example of that for me. He kept rewarding me with more minutes, and no, he was a big reason why I decided to come back because I had that familiarity with him, and he kind of, obviously expects a lot. He expects you to be a two-way player, but he gives you that creativity and freedom to make some plays and to, he doesn't bog your mind up with too much systematical stuff. And it's kind of just the right balance, I think.
That's nice. When you've got a coach that's like that and lets you play, what a difference it makes. And you're not trying to remember.
Absolutely.
Because as smart as hockey players are, a lot of them go to college, remembering every system, remembering every breakout, every fight. Like, there's a lot of shit to remember. Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
trying
I think almost sometimes it can favor some of the guys that aren't thinkers by nature, like and it's just like the guys that go out there and play and don't really think critically about the systems and all that. I think it actually can benefit those guys sometimes. And I think, like you said, it's a blessing when you have a coach that strikes that balance. And obviously there's a time and a place to play safe and to lock it down defensively in tight games and end of periods and all that. And you still need to do that, but you still need to go make plays too, and that's what ultimately decides the game.
right, Spencer, got a couple of cheesy questions for you. You might have already hit on some of the answers. Favorite player ever?
Sidney Crosby. Yeah, he came into the league 2005, and I was about 10 years old, and that's kind of right when I started really getting into hockey. And honestly, I think he had a big part in that. Like YouTube was becoming popular, and I was able to watch his highlights and follow the Penguins and stuff, and kind of help foster my love for the game. So yeah, Crosby.
Yeah, that's a legit answer. That's one we've had on more than one occasion. He's just even now, like watching him in the Four Nations, he's so good still.
It's amazing.
So
Yeah. For him to still be doing it too is pretty cool. It's going to be a sad day when he's done, but he's influenced so many people in my generation and so many young players.
yeah, he's been awesome. He's been awesome in the community. He's given a lot back. He's got a lot of young kids that started in the game. He's donated lots of ice hockey kit and stuff like that to projects to get kids involved in the game. And like it's not only his on ice thing, his off ice thing is top class. Uh,
Absolutely.
Toughest player you've ever played with or against?
Uh, toughest, like physically?
Yeah, like some
Yeah,
like any of those AHL boys.
yeah. Um, the guy that comes to mind right away, I played with him in Cleveland and Idaho, is a guy named Cale Kessie. And you go take a peek at his elite prospects and his penalty minutes every single year. He's been in the AHL now for a long time, and he's not that big, but he will fight anyone. And he's the toughest guy I've played with. And we were playing against Ontario Reign and McDermott, who's like 6'9", I think, was on that team. He ended up being in Colorado. He might have actually been part of that cup winning team, but Kessie fought him. He wasn't scared. And I remember watching those two guys go at it, being like, "Whew, I'm glad I'm on the bench right now.
Yeah,
I'll
not
watch
getting
from
involved.
afar." Yeah.
What about the best teammate you've ever had?
Best teammate? Jeez. I don't know. That's a tough question. I've played with so many good ones, and we talked about earlier in the locker room and all that. Um, I had a teammate for 4 straight years in high school through Blake School and Benilde St. Margaret's, and then we both played together at UConn, and we were roommates. Johnny Austin, and I actually officiated his wedding a couple
Oh,
summers
awesome.
ago, and we're still best friends now. So I think I have to say he's the best teammate I've had, even though there's been a long list, but played with him for 8 seasons in a row. So, and we're still friends now. So, got to give the nod
What,
to him.
what about the funniest teammate or the biggest beauty you've ever played with?
Oh gosh, you're you're
You
putting me
can
on the
you
spot
can
here
throw
for
a few
sure.
names. You don't have to just go one. You throw a few guys in there.
Yeah. Gosh, I had a group of college my roommates with Johnny, but then you had Corey Ronan and David Drake. Corey's dad played for Montreal Canadiens, won a Stanley Cup there, and David's played in the AHL, ECHL. To see those two guys banter back and forth and go at it was pretty funny. But last year we had Johnny Walker for a little bit, who
Yeah.
was a complete riot. that guy was something else. Just like the energy he brought to the room, there's only one Johnny Walker, they say. Um, but yeah, those are kind of the names that come to mind right off the top of my head.
And final one, got to give the coaches a little bit of love. Who's the best coach you played for?
Best coach?
Yeah.
Um, Gosh, that's a really difficult question because each one has kind of a different impact on your life. I had a coach, Ken Pauley, in Benilde St. Margaret's in Minnesota, who was kind of that, like, semi father figure, I guess, a little bit, like, really, supportive, and kind of knew what buttons to push, and really cared about his players. I remember one night, one of our teammates had his dad had a really bad health problem, and I gave coach a call, and I said, I apologize for calling so late. And he stopped me right there, and he said, well, first off, you never have to apologize for calling me. Like, no matter what time of the day or anything, you can always call me. And that I'll never forget that. And you could tell he meant it too. And then in college, playing for Mike Kavanaugh at UConn, he was really demanding and really detail oriented, and really hammered home not only how you wanted to go about hockey, but the way you lived your life. He would say, how you do anything is how you do everything. And you keep your space clean. And he said the guys that cut corners in classroom and don't go to class and all that are the same guys that are going to cheat on the ice and not do the things in the weight room and all that. So I always remember some of the lessons that he taught us there, not even hockey related, but yeah, those are kind of the guys that come to mind right away.
Teaching you how to be a good man.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of the time of your life. I was 18, 19 to 22. And that's really when you're trying to grow up too. Not only become a good hockey player, but also become a man.
What an awesome interview, Spencer. Thank you very much. Best of luck for the remaining weeks of the season here. You guys are going to be in a hell of a battle. So everyone that's watching, probably Dundee fans, get behind the boys, give them the support, and ladies and gents, we will see you for another episode very, very soon. Peace.
Thank you very much. Hope to see you around the rink.
Yeah, cheers, buddy.